since you brought it up, what about forward-facing sonar? Where do you fall on that hot rod topic?
Yeah, it's
A blessing and a curse?
Curse might be strong, right?
Curse is strong. I guess it would depend on what fishery we're speaking to.
Yeah.
And how it's being utilized. So it's obviously being prevalent in the tournament bass fishing scene, right? And tournament bass fishing, we all know it's 100% catch and release. Even recreational bass anglers pretty much release, let's say 85%, right? So for me, having a tool like forward-facing sonar where it's going to increase your catch ratio or your catch rate just based on what it's able to do for you, in a fishery like that isn't a curse, but it's not going to have a negative impact. Again, my opinion on this.
Sure.
I believe, from my experience, you're going to catch more with it, right? But you're going to turn them all back. And even if there's some release mortality, again, we're talking about fisheries that have sustained themselves with catch and release now for years and years and years. Where it gets a little sketchy for me is some of the other fisheries where it's being used as a take fishery. So
Crappie.
Big one,
Yeah.
right? Schools of crappie, if they're not in cover, they roam and suspend in the middle of these big bodies of water. And they no longer can hide, right? You can find that school. You can stay on that school. Catching is another story, and then that's the debatable part, whether you're on one side of the fence or the other with this topic. But there's other fisheries, too, that are there's some concerns in the industry, and I'll use muskie as an example. Muskie is the fish of 10,000 casts, right? How much work you have to put in to get a single bite from a muskie. We all know that, right? It's very well discussed in the fishing industry. Well, now, if you locate a muskie, let's say you locate a 50-incher on your forward-facing sonar, you can stay on that fish for as long as you need to until it bites. The fish almost doesn't have a chance, and you could relate this to Omni Sonar with the bill fishing community, the sport fish boat community and tournaments and things like that. They'll literally stay on a marlin all day, right? Just continue to try and the muskie fishery is similar. So taking an iconic fishery and those fish that take so long to grow in those northern fisheries, and they get to be 50 inches, and then in one shot, that fish just could be gone. There's a little concern there for me. And ultimately, those fisheries are what sustain our livelihoods, right? What we do for a living. So we want to protect them, but we also want to empower anglers to go fish and to get tight.
There's such a double-edged sword there, because on one hand, I feel like it's good for the catching. It's good for hooking anglers to become part of this obsession and passion that we all have, which turns them into conservationists, hopefully, if they're, thoughtful about what they're enjoying. But on the flip side of it, it's almost cutting out all of the sweat equity that an angler puts in to get good at fishing. Wisdom, right? Experience,
Totally.
like all that stuff. That gets condensed so much that if, like, you take forward-facing sonar away, 10 years down the road, people that didn't build that, experience over years of trial and error and figuring pieces of the puzzle out, it's almost like it's stunting the ability of anglers to learn what fish do. And that's where...
that's a very personal level of satisfaction, what you're getting out of the sport. You know what I mean? Like, some people don't mind that. Other people like to, they'll taste the water, go, okay, I need to throw a jitterbug. So between the two extremes like that, to me, and I don't even have the right to opinion to this. I will probably never have forward-facing sonar. I fished on boats with people with it, but my thing with it is if it's changing the behavior of the fish, in terms of if they're feeling more pressure, fish that previously didn't, and it creates kind of a barrier for entry for other guys who, like me, aren't going to have forward-facing sonar and are just trying to get into fishing. Do you really need a I don't even know how much the average. What would the starter level forward-facing sonar setup be if I just?
Well, now they've made them more affordable, $1,000-$1,500.
Oh well, that's not. I was expecting $10,000, but
So
It's 5 swim baits, Jim.
no,
you beat me to it. If you're going to buy a 12-inch screen and the best transducer, it's going to cost you $3,000.
Mm-hmm.
But you can do it for $1,000 now.
Okay.
So it's easier to get into it. But I want to back up to Cheech's point a little bit earlier on this because, when we learned how to fish, you'd learn how to flip grass, you'd learn how to shallow crank, you'd learn how to deep crank, you'd learn how to throw a jig, you learn how to throw a top water, a jerk bait. You learn all these different techniques. And my concern is, and as a freshwater bass guy at heart, watching these new anglers come into the sport, and I talked to a young kid who fished a tournament a couple of weeks back, and he said he's never fished a tournament without forward-facing sonar. So I asked him, I said, well, have you ever gone here or gone there or fished this way or fished that way? And he said, well, no, why would I? Anglers are not as diverse who are starting with it because of what it does for you, in my opinion. This goes back to what you said, Cheech, earlier, but again, I work in the industry, but I'm also a passionate bass angler, and I appreciate people that are well-rounded anglers, right? And I don't want to say it's stunting the development of anglers, but it's limiting that because they don't have to.
Yeah.
Right? If you're a tournament guy and you use it and you're successful, why would you change it?
Yeah.
So, and if we discuss the impact of the industry, bass fishing is dictated by trend. Everybody is aware of this, right? So if a tournament circuit, one thing's happening, or another tournament circuit, this is happening, those things become the latest, greatest, hottest trends going. So for now,
shaking a minnow,
multiple years, if you walk into an independent tackle dealer, like we talked about earlier, and ask them, when was the last time you sold a 6XD?
Yeah.
Or a world minnow? Well, they might say, well, we sell some world minnows because you could forward-facing sonar, but the crankbait business is dead. We haven't sold crankbaits in months because it's not trendy. Guys aren't doing it because everybody's forward-facing with techniques that just cater to that.
Breaking news, crankbaits no longer catch bass.
Right, but again, trends and what drives business. So, and I'll give you a true example. Conventional or bait casting gear versus spinning gear. Spinning gear is stronger than bait casting gear right now. It's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
So things like this.
Did that flip in line with forward-facing sonar? Is that pretty much right on the money?
Totally.
Wow.
Totally. Complete relation.
I never thought of that, actually. Because I would have thought that, we always use the adage, 15% of fishermen catch 85% of the fish. And, but the 85% of fishermen that aren't catching that 85% of the fish make up the biggest part of the market, right? So I feel like if you're kind of a beginning angler, a novice angler, you gravitate towards a spinning rod. But maybe I'm wrong about that because I would have thought that would have been kind of where everyone starts, and it might have. I don't know.
The ripple effect of that technology is really interesting. I hadn't really considered how it would trickle down to what rods and reels were selling more and more.
It trickles down to everything.
Everything.
It definitely does, and it's one of those things where we are fortunate at Shimano that we have a bait casting reel that does something very unique for forward-facing sonar that most people, unless you're using it, don't really think about it. So one of the main reasons that people use spinning gear and forward-facing sonar is so that you can free line or a spinning reel, you can literally open the bail and the bait will fall vertical. Well, everybody knows that a bait casting setup has tension on the spool, so the bait wants to pendulum, right? Because of that tension. So our DC technology is the only reel that after you cast, it's completely free spool. There's no tension on that spool. So you can use it for forward-facing sonar and have the same effect. Only now you get the muscle and the confidence of having that bait casting gear instead of spinning gear. So most of the industry doesn't have that. They still have the tension on the spool. The bait won't fall vertical. So spinning gear is the choice. So there's been a little bit of a shift to go back to some of the DC technology because of that capability, that being one of the things. Because when your bait lands, remember you're casting to a fish on the screen, you want the bait to fall vertical to that fish.
It is so layered.
We could talk for hours and hours and hours and hours about forward-facing sonar.
Shimano has rods and reels for every fishery in the Northeast, whether it's deep dropping the swordfish in the canyons, casting the stripers in the surf, or finessing panfish through the ice. That's about as wide a range of fishing applications as you're going to get. For inshore saltwater applications, the workhorse of the Shimano lineup is the Spheros SW combo. The Spheros SW is built with premium Shimano technologies like Infinity Drive, which increases cranking power and smoothness while fighting fish. The rods range from a 7-foot medium heavy to a 9-foot heavy and fit Spheros SW sizes from 5,000 to 8,000 for a range of lure and bait fishing. From the surf this past season, I used the Ultegra XR 14,000 XSD paired with the Shimano Tiralejo XX surf rod. The Ultegra XR is Shimano's most feature-packed surf reel to date, with the rigid cast spool support to stabilize the spool while casting heavy lures, Infinity Drive to increase winding power under pressure, and X-Protect technology to provide high-level water resistance. The Tiralejo XX is built for casting distance and durability. The 10'6", 1 to 3 ounce model was perfect for punching avid jigs through the wind during a sand eel bite in New Jersey last fall, and it was great for throwing pencil poppers to distant bluefish off the south side of Cape Cod. It's become my go-to combo when casting distance makes the difference in the surf. No matter what you're fishing for in the Northeast, Shimano has a rod and reel for it. To pick out your next setup, visit fish.shimano.com.